Hey everybody, welcome to the armory today. Well, today we got our P14 infield, and we got it oiled up. A little bit of excess oil there. We got it all oiled up and ready for the range. We're going out to the range today. We're going to see how the P14 shoots. Now we did swap out the rear sight for the Bad Ace no drill scope base. So we'll give that a shot, see how we like that. It's nice and steady, nice and firm, and it should do the job just fantastically. Now, one thing that a viewer brought up in my prior video that I wanted to talk about is a drill and parade rifle safe to remilitarize? Now, there's a lot of there's a lot of thought process about this. Some people would shy away from this. There are a lot of P14 drill and parade rifles that have been remilitarized and brought back into shooting condition. But a couple of things he brought up, one of them being that the rifles were damaged or inferior or something like that, and he specifically brought up like heat treating of the rifle. Now, the heat treating issue, I believe, stems from the 1903 Springfield and their early heat treating problems at Springfield Armory. And I don't believe any other arsenal ever had a problem with heat treating the receivers. I believe that was strictly just a problem at Springfield, but it was also something that was probably blown out of proportion when it comes to the rifles. And there's a lot of conjecture and very little actual history about it, so I'm not entirely sure that's a valid thing, even with the Springfields. I actually personally own a very low number Springfield 03, and it's been a shooter its entire life, and it does fantastically. So I never really believe the heat treating thing. The other problem, I know a lot of sources have said that there were chamber and headspace issues on SMLE infields. I don't believe there was ever an issue with the American infields, the P14s, but having the barrel replaced and rechambered and re-headspaced obviously takes care of an issue like that. I think one of the bigger issues with the drill and parade rifles is really going to come down to once the First World War ended, there were so many arms in inventory that you had to either maintain them or surplus them, and it was probably a lot cheaper to surplus them rather than try to maintain them in inventory and maintain the rifles in a battle-ready situation, for which there would never be another World War after the First World War. We all know that, the Great War was the war that ended all wars, right? So there was no reason to maintain such a large arms stockpile, and I think that's probably why so many of the First World War arms were surplused en masse. And really, I think that's probably how a lot of these ended up in drill and parade. I know America manufactured most of the Nagants for the Russians, and once the Bolsheviks took power, the American contracts were pretty much null and voided, which left America on the hook for all these rifles that they had and the contracts to make more. And one of the things that the government did was hand out Mosin Nagants for like ROTC programs for drill and parade. And I, in fact, actually have two drill and parade rifles, Mosin Nagant drill and parade rifles, that stayed here in America. So I don't necessarily believe a drill and parade rifle is inferior. Now, what I would say, the rifle is stamped DP all over the rifle, and that is customary. You want to identify it for what it is, so you don't think it's a conventional arms. And if you remember, the stock was painted red and white right here at the receiver area of the stock. But the one thing that I would say is probably weakened by this process is the extractor. Now, this has a very long claw type extractor, like a Mauser 98, for which it is copied from. And we know those are very good quality steel. They're highly tempered, heat treated, all that stuff, sprung steel, and they stamp DP on the extractor. Now that, I could imagine, will lead to a broken extractor, just because you're introducing stresses to a piece of heat-tempered, very thin steel. And I can imagine that that has a chance to snap. So that is possibly an issue. But as for functionality, the drill and parade rifle had the firing pin tip ground down, and it was plugged right at the base of the chamber, so you couldn't even chamber around if you wanted to, and such. Now, this rifle is numbers matching between the bolt and the receiver, and during the bluing process, when they re-blued this, the bolt is just a little sticky on the very end of its travel. It's got just a little bit of stickiness, but I think that'll work itself out just naturally. So I'm not terribly concerned about that. Bolt locks up nice and tight, head spaces perfectly, functions perfectly, safety works. So I think we're in business. And I imagine, I did not verify this, but I imagine McGowan probably test fired it when they were done. It's pretty customary when a gunsmith rebarrels a rifle. It's pretty common that they will test fire a round before they send it out the door, just to make sure the function is correct. So we're going to load up today. We're heading up to the range, and we've got some Rifle Line 303 British from PPU. This is 174 grain full metal jacket. And this is really, really good modern made ammunition. So we're very happy about this. And we're loading up and going to the range today. So I'm going to have some range videos for you coming up very, very soon. So stay tuned. And I hope you all have a great day.